Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Reimagine 2021 conference series. We're here with version 7 of our event. I got my Mario hat on. The theme for this event is history of coins. So we're exploring fun use cases in crypto and blockchain. And I'm Roshan Mirajkar, one of your hosts for this event. I'm also the project manager of the event. I'm very excited to have a guest that's been here before. So welcome back. With me here today, I have Paul Puey. He's the CEO and co-founder of Edge. Paul, welcome back to the show. And how have the past couple months been for you and your team, just in terms of business trends or your experience with the crypto boom?
Well, I'm pretty sure what I'm about to say is pretty common across a lot of the ecosystem, a lot of the crypto companies, especially any that focus on exchange services, buy, sell, and trade. Obviously, when the price goes up, people start to hear about crypto. People are like, what is that? I get the fear of missing out. FOMO kind of kicks in and people want to get involved. And so we've definitely seen over the past more than a couple of months, easily the past 6 months, a notable uptick, if not huge spikes in transaction volume, people buying, selling, and trading cryptocurrencies through our application. Like I said, it's probably common across the rest of the industry as well.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. I think your company, especially, coming from like a infrastructure standpoint, I think you guys play obviously a very key role in just onboarding new users and kind of always adding new features. Can you speak a little bit about some of the unique business considerations being a global wallet provider and I would say infrastructure company that you have to kind of worry about?
So as far as like worrying about, we actually try to build our company and technology so that we don't have to worry about a lot of the things that many cryptocurrency companies have to deal with. So number one, we're self-custody. Our app allows people to hold and control their own keys. They transact directly to blockchain networks and APIs that aren't under our control. So one of the things that many companies are concerned about that we concern ourselves with less, not necessarily zero, but less, is the regulatory environment, the banking or relationship environment. We don't ourselves have a bank account that we use for customer funds, unlike many exchanges, or customer transactions. We have a bank account that's basically for just paying our own bills. And so that, in addition to the regulatory uncertainty of each country, what are the application processes and the licenses that you have to go and get before you can offer exchange services, we leave that to our partners. So our partners are kind of our back end for exchange functionality. And yes, they do have to worry about that. We'll see some partners have to turn off services in certain regions. And the beauty about being in the software space is that when one partner might have to turn off service due to a banking relationship issue, we may have another partner that can come in and fill that gap. That's happened a few times in our history, and it's allowed us to continue offering the service more seamlessly to our user base while still navigating the kind of challenges of like banking relationships and regulatory uncertainty.
Yeah, I think you and your team have done an awesome job considering everything you just said in terms of like you cannot build one solution or cater in one way for every single country. So it's very great work that you guys are doing because obviously it's hard to scale. And kind of going into this idea a bit, I wanted to ask you, there's been a lot of talks about institutions getting into crypto using custody services. And the main point is they don't really control their own keys and they don't really have their own wallet. Can you talk to me about the importance, from your philosophical view, maybe of, what you think the future of crypto will be and blockchain, just in terms of wallets? Who are going to be the ones adopting them and using them? Do you think it'll just stay retail users?
So I think it definitely will be across the board. We're seeing definitely retail. Obviously, it started off with retail, back in 2009, 2010. It was all just retail investors, just a bunch of, in a way I call it libertarians and geeks. I got into Bitcoin, and at the time it was Bitcoin only. Come 2013, we started to see more kind of not just the geeks and libertarians, but just retail investors as a whole. Just regular people every day getting into Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies around that 2013 timeframe. Then 2017 came along, and then we started to hear the term institutional investors. So now these are the people that are entities, companies, hedge funds that started to get into Bitcoin and crypto. And then now come into 2021, kind of starting in 2020, we're starting to see actual large corporations getting into it, not getting into it from the viewpoint of allowing crypto transactions in their product, but more of using it as a store of value, specifically Bitcoin, to some degree Ether, using it as a store of value for their treasury. And I predict over the next 4 years, the next transition is that we're going to see state level actors, actual nation states, which are kind of the next level above large corporations, now getting into it. Now, you talked about and asked the question of self-custody versus holding it with a custodian. I think that's always going to exist for the foreseeable future. But I do predict that we're going to go down two divergent paths. Either crypto goes and has a majority of funds held in self-custody solutions, or split key solutions where no one entity holds the ability to move funds. Maybe not even myself. It might be a key that I hold and a partial custodian holds another key, and it's a multi-sig environment. That I think will happen. But either self-custody or partial custody continues for a vast majority of funds, or the experiment that is cryptocurrency will just fail outright, just outright fail. If a vast majority of funds ends up being held in a custodial solution, then this is actually not much more different than gold. And if you look at the history of gold relative to fiat currency, is that gold was the actual currency and fiat was the optimization as a payment method. It was optimizing the payment method of gold. So you really want to separate the concept of the currency itself and the payment method by which you send the currency. In the case of Bitcoin, the two are tied, right? You cannot have Bitcoin without both having a payment mechanism and the actual currency baked in. With gold and every other currency before that, any physical currency, the payment method is just simply me handing it physically to you. Like that's the payment method, right? The native payment method is the physical air, but we build on top of that a payment system such as paper money to make it easier, because transferring gold's hard. So we build the paper money on top of it. Custodial solutions are kind of like that, in the sense that you're putting your money with a custodian and they're issuing an IOU, and that IOU is effectively how you are paying people. If that ends up becoming the way that the vast majority of funds are held, and that we're transferring the IOUs from custodian to custodian, then the exact same thing that happened to gold, where gold was backing the dollar and backing other currencies, that'll happen to Bitcoin as well, where that backing suddenly gets severed. And we say, hey, this amount of dollars of paper is equivalent to gold. Well, at a certain point, we sever that tie and we say, no, the dollars just kind of float and there's not necessarily that much gold backing it. And I presume, and I feel very confident in saying that that will happen as well with Bitcoin and crypto, if most funds are held in custodial solutions and we use custodial solutions to pay with Bitcoin. So I'm at a disagreement with, I believe it was Michael Saylor that actually said this, that, oh yeah, hold Bitcoin, but we're just going to use PayPal to transact it. You know, we're going to use all these services to transact our Bitcoin. And I have a strong dislike of that theory, because then you're going to break the actual value of Bitcoin and it will get unpegged from that IOU.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, your strong views on that. We welcome all views here, and yeah, I think that's pretty interesting, because I don't think a lot of people share the same thoughts. I think many people just kind of want mass adoption, but so I think now would be interesting to get into like, I want to hear you talk about. Well, first, let's just get started with talking about some of the use cases or some of the abilities you can have by using your own wallet and not just a custody solution, right? So I'm talking about things like interest-bearing solutions and NFTs and the whole DeFi boom. All of that really requires the actual use of a wallet and smart contracts that you can't do with custody solutions, right? So I know recently Edge launched interest-bearing tokens. I believe it was the A tokens and the C token. This is very recent. Can you talk to us a little bit about why did you even choose to launch this product, and how do you envision the product working right now?
So let me do a little bit of rewind on just DeFi as a whole and why I'm excited about. Obviously, these interest-bearing tokens are a part of DeFi. So for a long time, I've posited that Bitcoin is kind of the decentralized, distributed, censorship-resistant, accessible globally money, and it's the first time we ever had that, like a digital money that has all of those traits. But if you think about our world and how we interact with money, only a portion of our interaction with money is simply holding it and sending it and receiving it. Right? You might think that that's the vast majority, but it's not actually. We do a lot more things with money than just hold it, send it, receive it. That's effectively what Bitcoin allows. Hold it, send it, receive it. It does have some ability to have more complex transactions, multi-sig transactions, but at its heart, that's what it was designed for. That's what a lot of the core team members of Bitcoin are really trying to build it for, is hold, send, receive. Look at our financial system, though. In addition to that, we have financial services that sit on top of the money. So loans, interest-bearing accounts, and investments, trading of various assets with that money, such as stocks, bonds, and whatnot, insurance. All of these things you can think of as financial services that sit on top of money. DeFi helps complete the story of saying, hey, you can now hold money that is digital and yet is self-custodied, meaning you hold the keys, you control the money. But if I wanted to now take a part in a financial service, I wanted to go take out a loan or fund a loan, put money in an interest-bearing account. Prior to DeFi, all of that became custodial. I'd have to put my money in a service such as a very popular service that exists today, the BlockFi, and other similar services, which I think Salt was one of the first ones to offer this. No knock against those services. They were, definitely needed services, and I'm happy that they exist. But realize that those are just taking crypto and putting them in the exact same infrastructure as a regular banking system. They hold the money, they loan it out to someone else. They get to choose who it gets loaned out to. They do the KYC. It's only accessible to portions of the population. Not the whole world can access BlockFi and other similar services. And so you end up with the same limitations that regular money has. So to me, that isn't exciting. It's just, just another asset that you're putting and offering different services, but the service itself doesn't have that same decentralized, autonomous, censorship resistant, globally accessible trait that Bitcoin had. In comes DeFi. Let's now take those services and make them globally accessible, censorship resistant, give you a better level of privacy. You don't need KYC in an application process. Now that starts to achieve some of the goals that Bitcoin was built for in the first place. So now what are those different services that people are looking to do? Now, we can't replace everything with DeFi. One of the biggest challenges that I haven't seen a company offer yet successfully is under collateralized or non-collateralized loans. Meaning I want to borrow some money, but I don't really have anything that I could give you in return to collateralize that loan. You just have to trust me in my credit history. That doesn't quite exist. There are some companies working on that, but I think that's actually a very tough problem to solve. But over collateralized loans, which have existed for some time, that works great in DeFi. You're taking a smart contract that's not a certain company. People deposit money into it that they want to lend out. People then borrow from it, using collateral. It works great. So this, I think, is at least a nugget of financial services finally being offered in a manner that crypto was built for. So getting back to the point that you had mentioned, we added these A tokens, C tokens, and what are they for? They're part of the puzzle of DeFi. They're part of the different building blocks that you can do with DeFi. And they're one of the simpler integrations that can be done for now, which is swapping an asset into an A token or a C token allows you to then get interest in that underlying asset. And as an example, ETH is obviously an asset that you could just hold. You don't earn interest on it, but you can convert that ETH into a C-ETH or a compound ETH. And now as you hold that compound ETH now gains interest denoted in ETH. So when you convert it back into ETH, you'll have more ETH than you started with. Of course, minus the unfortunate, very, very high gas fees that are required on the Ethereum network. So other than the gas fees, hopefully, you pretty much this is restricted to whales at this point. High 5 figures, 6 figures, 7-figure type of transactions are ones where the gas fee becomes negligible relative to the gains. So being able to have an interest-bearing account, especially even in dollars, like you can take USDC, which for the most part is pretty well pegged to the dollar, instead of having dollars in a bank account, turn that into CUSDC, and then now you can actually get compounding interest that way beats any bank around the world. And that's also accessible from anywhere in the world with an internet connection, not from someone that has to KYC in one of the major countries of our world. So that's in essence the reason for us to incorporate the A tokens and the C tokens. And I think what people are going to see going forward with Edge is a tighter integration with DeFi products where you're not just buying a token, but you're more explicitly earning interest, and what interest you're going to get, how much interest you have gotten, what's the current interest rate, and also being able to borrow. using your crypto, being able to borrow a different asset using the crypto that you already have. But yes, I'm very excited about the entire DeFi movement. I think it really completes the picture of our financial world. Not just that decentralized money, but now decentralized financial services on top of that money, which is what many of us need in order to complete our financial life. And we're on the right track. Just obviously just the fees. We need to kind of figure out a way to lower the fees and use different platforms that enable us to do so.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting to hear that you launched that new feature for your users. And I think that's something that's becoming standard kind of in the crypto space, like this lucrative offer of just more yield for your assets. And there's a lot of different ways that you can get that yield. And I want to get into some of those questions here, and also ask you just in general, right? How do you think, what is your kind of concept of something like a wallet? I think a lot of people like consider just wallets differently, but I guess even going forward, like years ahead, how do you actually see a wallet, being envisioned? Like, do you think it's just going to be like, it's not going to be abstracted away, like it's always going to be kind of in front of your face? Or do you think, going back to your previous example, it'll get abstracted away, but you'll have all of these different services that are kind of tied to your wallet? Like, what do you see the future of that being, like in relation to current banks, I'll say, for our viewers out there, if you want to compare and contrast?
I think the best way to start answering that question is to first make the statement that I think the word wallet is an ill-defined term that we should kind of stop using. Like, admittedly, we have it in our Twitter handle, Edge Wallet. Our company tries to refer to our product as just simply Edge. So we are Edge, we are not Edge Wallet. Sure, we provide what people consider to be a wallet type application, but here's the problem with that term, right? If you think back before crypto, what did the term wallet mean? It pretty much meant a piece of leather or similar material that held paper notes, might have held some coins, and in the old days, it actually even held photos. You had a little photo book inside of your physical wallet in your pocket. Enter crypto, where the term wallet can mean so many different things. Anything from, a piece of software on a mobile device that allows you to send and receive crypto. A USB stick is now called a wallet, right? A hardware wallet, it's just a USB hardware stick is called a wallet. A piece of paper with a QR code on it will be called a wallet. And even a fully custodial bank account will be called a wallet. Like, I can go into various exchanges and they'll say, here's your Bitcoin wallet in your exchange account. Here's your USD wallet in your bank account. So what the heck is a wallet anymore? What the hell is a wallet? It's completely ill-defined. So let's throw out that term altogether and say, well, I don't know what the hell a wallet is anymore, so I don't know what the heck it's going to be. Now let's look at the different products that actually exist in the industry today and how they differentiate between each other. So obviously there are fully custodial services, and I'll call that a custodial financial service that holds your money. That custodial financial service can do many different things. It can do kind of DeFi-like things as well. It can, obviously provide interest-bearing returns. It can actually interface with real DeFi and give you interest-bearing returns. So that's entirely possible, but I'd say that those are what I call the custodial services. And all honestly, I don't care what they really offer so much, because I try to veer people away from that. Now let's go into the self-custody solutions and the different options there. So what we're seeing is kind of a divergence where there are products that are the key holders. So they hold the keys of cryptocurrency, as well as help you transact for sending and receiving. So people traditionally call those like the self-custody or non-custodial wallets, meaning that they hold the keys and they send and receive. All right, straightforward. Edge happens to be one of those products. But sending and receiving is one of the financial services that a wallet can offer, but it can also offer some of the other financial services such as staking, interest-bearing accounts, and loans. So that's where we start entering kind of more of the DeFi realm. And what we're seeing in the DeFi realm is that you then end up using two different products, typically an interface that allows you to see the product offering, that also creates transactions, but it doesn't sign them, right? It has a different wallet product, I guess you can call it a wallet, but a key management product, do the signatures, and then send that back and then broadcast that out to the network. So we're seeing the separation. So we're calling these like these key signers. EOS, almost, all of the EOS interaction you'll have other than just sending and receiving will go through a key signer interface. no matter what you're doing. Same thing with a lot of Ethereum apps. If you want to interact with a lot of the decentralized exchanges, Uniswap and whatnot, one option is to go directly to a Uniswap website and then use your key manager, such as a Wallet Connect based app, a MetaMask, a dApp browser to interface with that. So my predictions to help kind of answer your question, where do I think the industry is headed? I think this is one of those also, a lot of the industry would probably disagree with me, is that I feel like this separation of the key manager and the dApp will slowly start to dissipate. And I think that's an era for developers. It's an easy way for a developer to build a dApp, not having to deal with key management interfaces, just build a raw dApp, because that's already a hard problem to solve, right? You got to build your dApp, you got to build a protocol, you got to build a user interface for your dApp so people can actually try it out. So even if you're building say a decentralized exchange protocol, such as a 0x or a Uniswap, just building the protocol alone and launching the smart contract isn't enough. You've got to build an interface to it so people can try it out. So you're actually forced to build the first interface. It's kind of like the template app. So you build that interface. A lot of people use it. They use it with, a dApp browser. But in the end, the better experience is when that's integrated into the application that actually holds the keys. So as an example, in MetaMask, they also allow you to do actual swaps via Uniswap integrated in the app. You don't have to leave the app. And that's where a lot of volume gets created, because now people have that improved integrated user experience. It's not go here, oh, please sign that on your app, go back to your app, sign it. Okay, great, send it. It's much more integrated. It also is in a way more secure, in the sense that the quote unquote key manager, the wallet app, knows what it's signing. It's not guessing. It's not just showing you this payload of a bunch of gibberish and saying, please sign this. I don't actually know what it's going to do. So from a security point of view, it's actually better, because the app that creates the transaction is the one that signs it, and it knows and can show you what exactly it's signing. So that is one of my predictions, and also the direction that we want to head to with Edge. So today people can actually swap using decentralized exchanges in Edge, and all of those transactions are created on the application, not by some website, and it knows what it's signing and then sending that out to the network, and you're not having to bounce back and forth. And I predict that what will happen over the course of the next few years is that we'll see various apps incorporate DeFi functionality directly inside of the app. And what you're downloading now isn't like a generic wallet anymore. It's I'm downloading an app to do loans and interest-bearing accounts, an app to do insurance, an app to do decentralized or just do exchange functionality for trading, and then an app to do X, Y, and Z type of financial service, which is kind of what we do today, right? Today, I will download my app for E-Trade to do trading. I'll download kind of PayPal to do payments out of my bank account, and download an insurance app to track my insurance status and whatnot. And that's what I predict will happen over the course of the next several years, is tighter integration with the actual wallet interface to the financial service.
Yeah, thank you for actually explaining all of that, because I think for a lot of our viewers out there, it is confusing just with all of the different products. And I feel like I also learned a little something from you just now in terms of thinking about it differently, really, like a different, now you're talking about like a newer paradigm shift, where even some of the things that exist today might not exist in the same form that they do right now. It's like it's just for convenience or understanding. But yeah, I think you're definitely correct. A lot of these things, it's just using smart contracts, and everything is designed differently. So I love how within Edge, you're sort of not abstracting all of it away, but keeping it in one place. I think you're talking about trust integrated there. I wanted to go a little bit into some of the regional initiatives that you're working on. I know you're working on a bunch, because it reminded me about something you just said about the importance that you and your team are putting on swapping different tokens as well. What do you think the future is for kind of zooming out and going to like third world countries, places where when you talk about wallets or any of the stuff we're talking about here today, it's like it might be the first time they're even getting something that resembles that, right? They don't even have any of these other things. So can you tell me about, you can say any regional initiatives you're working on right now? I think you're working on some in India. Do you take a different approach there? Or what can you tell us for the people that have like never visited some of these countries, and only have one viewpoint.
Got it. So I don't have any specifics to share about regional initiatives. So one of the things that we do by partnering with various exchanges around the world is, we evaluate the different partners that we're looking at integrating with, and try to see that they are appealing to the specific regions that they service. I mean, do they support the payment methods that that region really cares about, ways of getting money into and out of the assets that that region cares about, and then integrating with them. Now, once they have that, it really becomes, I won't call it necessarily so much the responsibility, but it's empowering those partners of ours to really cater to those specific regions as far as primarily, like I said, payment methods. That's the biggest thing that we're seeing is very, very relevant to our region, the payment methods. From the viewpoint of the actual app interface, our apps is the same no matter where you are. Like the interface doesn't change. We don't have different apps for different regions. And that definitely is a pro and a con. I'm sure there are some ways that the interface could be tweaked to appeal to certain regions more so than others. We haven't gone down the path of providing that level of specificity for specific regions other than language. So we definitely have language changes dependent on what region someone might download the app. So we do have language support across different parts of the world. But as far as initiatives per se, the main initiative is just really getting support for on-ramps, off-ramps in those areas. And we do that concurrently with as many parts of the world as possible. We're constantly, every day in discussions with potential exchange partners to allow people to onboard using different payment methods in different regions around the world. That's a kind of a global, no specific initiative, but just an overarching, long-standing, always will be there initiative to make Edge an app that anywhere in the world you'll be able to get into and out of crypto, and also trade between different assets. Now, one thing that I'll expand on that concept with is that our initiative to get into DeFi and to provide DeFi services is an initiative to provide the service in more places, because when you have centralized services inside of that, which we do for things like swapping between chains, so like a Bitcoin to Ethereum, a lot of those services, once you cross-chain, they're not custodial, they're non-custodial, but they still do have a centralized component, right? Money is flowing to some company. Like I would send Bitcoin to some company, and then a few minutes later, they send me back to Ether. That's the swap that I would do. But those services may be regionally restricted, unlike a decentralized exchange, which is not. So by looking at and trying to incorporate more of these DeFi equivalents to centralized services, we're able to open up those services across boundaries. And so one of the biggest initiatives that we're looking at tackling is cross-chain swaps, which are difficult to do, and right now are done almost exclusively through centralized services. But being able to do that through a more decentralized mechanism that's globally accessible, I think is probably the direction that much of our industry is headed towards. And we're looking at getting there, obviously being one of the earlier adopters of that technology.
Okay, yeah, got it. And hey, we also do need some of those centralized parties at times, just for
Oh, absolutely.
convenience, or
Mhm.
a different, for custody and a variety of other things. How about you talk to me a little bit about I think it's the Fio tokens or Fio tokens.
Oh, Fio.
I was
Yeah, Fio.
Fio, because yeah, Fio. Because I
Fio.
was reading that you and your team last year, you spent a lot of time on that, or you actually made sure
Mhm.
that you guys integrated that. I have a little bit of experience using Fio myself, but for the people
Cool.
that don't know out there, why did you choose to even spend time doing this? And again, going back to like, what do you see things like Fio? What is it going to lead to? More abstraction or more features?
Got it. So let's talk about what Fio is in the first place. A lot of people that haven't heard of Fio could probably use a little bit of a primer. So Fio, number one, is its own blockchain. Its code base was a fork of the original EOS code base, but vastly modified. So it's not at all like EOS in many ways, but the consensus mechanism and how block producers are all still there. But the single goal of Fio is to provide an interoperability layer between wallets. Now, that's a very generic sounding marketing term, like interoperability, blah, blah, blah. So I'll go more specifics about what I mean. So it's a blockchain agnostic interoperability layer, allowing wallets to talk to each other, to be able to do things such as send a payment request, meaning that I can send you a payment request to a name as opposed to a random string of letters and numbers. You receive the request, you can see how much I'm asking for, say it's like 0.01 Bitcoin, and you know that it's coming from me, and you just simply tap or slide to then send the payment off to my wallet. Nowhere in that process did anybody see a public address or anything looking like a public address. I get to see a name. You could have a Rohan at Edge, and I could be Paul at Edge, and I can just simply say, Rohan at Edge, could you send me 0.01 Bitcoin? You see that request on your side in your wallet, you tap, and then 0.01 Bitcoin comes back to me. No public addresses, no QR codes ever seen in that process. And the nice thing is when you send that payment to me, I can even see that that came from Rohan at Edge. I don't have to know and wonder, where did that money come from? And that's always one of the biggest questions people have about crypto is they receive money. I'm like, where did that come from? It's hard to tell where that money came from. Fio allows you to know the source and the destination. Number two, I can also just simply send money. I don't have to send a payment request, right? I could just simply know your address and just simply send money to that address outright. And you can see that it came from me. And I can even send a little bit of metadata, a little note, say, hey, Rohan, thanks for that dinner the other day, paying you back my share. And more importantly, all of this interaction that I've described, both sending a payment request, paying a payment request, sending a generic payment without a request, all of that little tidbit of metadata, who it's from, who it's going to, the amount, all of that is actually fully encrypted and nobody can see that other than you and I. That I think is fundamentally important. You actually don't see any of that transaction metadata fully encrypted on a blockchain. Now, the fact that it's on a blockchain makes it independent of any specific party. We've seen these name resolution services before where they go through a centralized party. Like these have existed before. It's where you could say, oh, just pay, somebody at their email address. A lot of centralized services let you do this, where as long as you have an account with a centralized service, you can pay an email address, but there's no actual on-chain transaction there. They're just kind of moving their database entry of who has an amount of Bitcoin to another person. So this is the first true blockchain agnostic, self-custody, or I guess say autonomous way of having name resolution of wallet names across multiple different blockchains, as well as encrypted metadata that can go between the parties that are paying each other or requesting payment from each other, and also allowing payment requests as a whole. Many people that have been in Ethereum are familiar with the .eth domains, ENS, Ethereum name service. But ENS only allows you to register a name and then link an address to that. And that's it. As soon as I want to go and make a payment, that payment just has to go to that specific linked address. I can't request a payment. I can't send metadata with that payment. All of that just kind of, it's a very partial implementation in an attempt to get us to that Venmo feel, right? That's kind of like the holy grail that people say in crypto is when it feels like you're just using Venmo, but it's so partial that the ENS is a very partial thing. I can send a payment to an ENS name, Johan.eth or whatnot, but that full experience of sending metadata with it, sending a payment request, gone. Fio fully completes that. And so, Fio does that in a way that's agnostic to other chains. Even though it's a fork of EOS, it's removed the ability to do arbitrary smart contracts. So it's not trying to compete with ETH. It's not trying to compete with EOS. It's not trying to compete with Bitcoin. It's really trying to be agnostic to all of those and really just provide this interoperability layer. And that's what I like about it. And the fact that it's not trying to compete helps get it adopted by other blockchains. And there are many other blockchains that are helping to promote Fio, even though they're both different blockchains, which in a way somewhat compete on the value proposition. But they see that it's non-competitive with the purpose of Fio relative to the purpose of these other blockchains, and it helps improve the usability of these other blockchains. That's one of the big reasons I got very excited about it. I think it was over 2 years ago when I first discovered the protocol and the project. Our company hopped on as one of the early adopters and committed to integrating the protocol into the app. And we continue to lead as far as functionality of the Fio protocol inside various quote unquote wallet apps. I think we have more functionality than any other app out there, and we're going to continue to implement new functionality as it comes down the pipe. And there are cool new things that I'm very excited about that'll help improve on the privacy. Right now with ENS, if you register and you link your wallet, everybody can see that wallet address and they can see all the money that you've ever received into that address. So it's a big privacy concern. That exists in Fio as well today. Future implementations of Fio in the protocol will allow us to kind of friend each other, like link each other. So I can say, hey, Rohan, all right, I'd like to add you as a contact. You approve it. And now a unique address can be shared between the two of us that no one else can see on the blockchain. So when I then just go and make a payment to Rohan, it goes to an address that you uniquely know, that's not broadcast anywhere on any blockchain. And that really elevates that layer of privacy that many of the naming services just don't have. So a lot of stuff coming down the pipe. I'm excited about the protocol. I invite people to use it. You can still register a free Fio address from Within Edge. That's for a limited time. We haven't announced when that'll end or when the Fio Foundation will end that, but definitely get your address while you can. And then, yeah, start using it. Use it to send people money back and forth, send payment requests. It's a great experience.
Yeah, I have my Fio address, and I had never actually seen anyone explain to Fio. So thank you for explaining all of that. And I think it's still something that's fairly new, or people are still getting around to even understanding, I guess, the importance. I guess I always see it as one layer of understanding is, how something works, but the second one is really the significance of it. Which is, I think, more important because it actually drives people to actually use it. Because I think we have great technology in crypto. So to kind of end things off here, I want to ask you, for the year 2021, what do you think will be the next disruptive thing that we'll see this year? Like, will it continue to be DeFi? Will it be NFTs? I want to ask you get your thoughts on, like, just from maybe even your users' perspective, right? I think you especially obviously have a lot of touch point with like retail users. I would say closer to the crypto community, not talking about institutions or anything else. So yeah, get your last thoughts on what do you think people will actually use and like not go back to the old thing by the end of this year.
Yeah, so I would initially say there's not a whole lot new other than like DeFi that will capture a lot of the retail attention. Although the one thing that seems to get a lot of attention right now is exactly what you said, is NFTs. And I'll be honest, I think a vast majority of the interest in NFTs honestly kind of surprises me. And I don't quite understand the direct appeal in at least the use case that I've seen. Now, I do see a use case for NFTs, no question about it. I think there's a good, valuable, direct use case. But what has created a lot of the adoption, people buying various NFT tokens for thousands of dollars, that kind of just surprises me, and I don't expect that to be the norm. I think that's just excitement, short-term excitement of a new technology. It's kind of cute, whatnot, but I honestly don't predict that that's sustainable. When I start to think of NFTs, I think of using kind of like blockchain technology to be able to represent real value goods, such as things like concert tickets, where each seat actually is a different value from another seat, but I want to be able to own it, control it, and allow me to gain admittance to an event based on me holding a private key and proving that I own a specific ticket. Well, that doesn't work well with a crypto coin because that's a value thing, not a specific real world asset. But the way it's been used today to say, I quote unquote own this digital art, feels a little bizarre because, well, anybody can see that digital art. They can have it and own it just as well as you own it, and they can enjoy it just as much as you can enjoy it. And so the ownership of that, why would I care that I have a token per se for digital art, if it doesn't represent like an actual physical piece underlying it? But if there's anything that I think could kind of come out of nowhere and suddenly capture a lot of attention, it could be the NFTs. Although admittedly, that's a piece that I won't understand it if it happens, because I don't expect it. It makes little sense to me, especially from a digital art point of view versus a physical art. If it maps to a physical art and you're proving ownership of that, then that's one thing. But from a digital art point of view, it makes less correlation to me. From the viewpoint of DeFi, I think DeFi is, I won't call it hit its peak, but it's definitely hit a level of widespread understanding within the crypto community. Getting it to be usable by the people outside of the crypto community is what I'm hoping happens before the end of 2021. Where, as an example, I use DeFi not as a yield-bearing mechanism, not as a, hey, I'm going to go and yield farm some random coin that's getting airdropped and mooning. Like, I don't think that's sustainable. I actually really didn't like seeing that because it just, it's going to crash and burn for people. People, I'm sure, lost a lot of money in that. I like DeFi for it to actually offer a real financial service, interest-bearing accounts that are reasonable interest, 10, maybe 20%, not 300x because of some mooning coin. It's like, good interest-bearing accounts, fair amounts, and the loans, and also some more advanced trading. So DeFi that allows you to do shorts and leverage, things like that. And of course, decentralized exchange. But in using that today, it has taken me multiple steps with multiple different apps to be able to accomplish a single DeFi transaction. Getting that fully and tightly integrated across different applications, I think, is what we're going to see going through the end of 2021, where my friend who's not a crypto person, but he or she happens to own some Bitcoin and wants to take out a loan, doesn't have to ask me about the 4 different products that they have to use to do so. Instead, I can just go, hey, go download this app, Edge. I would love it to be Edge. All right. And click those 2 or 3 buttons and boom, you've got a loan. All right. Now you've got some stable coin, click another button, deposit that into your bank account. And now you've honestly taken out a legitimate loan with a specific interest rate. And now you have cash in your bank. That's what I think is the next phase that I think we can fit into 2021. I think 2021 is early enough in the year where we could start to see that. And some products that have started to jump ahead and done that tighter integration we're seeing are being really applauded by the community. Like, as opposed to this multi-step, DApp browser, go to this website, go to that website, and it just gets integrated in one. Those products are definitely being applauded by the community. So I think we're going to see more of those, and we intend to get integrated in that same manner.
Yep, those are all great predictions, and the rapidness of the development in our space is so quick that we definitely could see a lot of these things in 2021. Paul, thank you so much for joining me here today at Reimagine 2021. I'm your host, Roshan, and I'll let you all tune back into the event. So check out Edge, and hope you all enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Check us out, edge.app.